is a HIPAA compliant platform that uses Zoom to be sure that we're protecting people's health information and so forth. And our numbers with the students that we are seeing is remaining, if not the same, a little bit higher in terms of the numbers of sessions and so forth since March. And we continue to see new students coming in for the initial assessment and then getting them into the pipeline to be seen individually. In the next couple of weeks, we are also starting groups in our office, and individuals are able to get involved with groups focusing on mindfulness, focusing on interpersonal relationships, focusing on coping skills and so forth. And for additional information, people can go to our website to see the description of what those offerings are and can express an interest by calling our office at 618-650-2842. Couple of outreaches and preventions that are coming down in the next couple of weeks. Many of you may be familiar with Fresh Check Day. We've offered that on campus in 2018 and 2019. 2018, it was in Stratton Quad, and in 2019, it was in the Goshen Lounge. This year, it will be virtual, and it will be on September 9th from 1 to 2 p.m. And it will involve 5 different booths related to content around mental health and wellness. We are partnering with CSDI, with Peace, with Health Services, and with Kimmel along with ourselves. So you all are invited to participate in that. It will be recorded also for streaming afterwards. So if individuals are interested in seeing that, that can be made available simply by calling me. On September 10th, as a sidebar, we are collaborating with the Madison County Mental Health Alliance and their half-day suicide prevention conference that is free for students. Educational Outreach is conducting the registration for that. And if you are interested in doing that, you can reach out to Cindy in Educational Outreach and she can help facilitate the registration process for you. Let's see, if you are interested in being reminded on how to get involved with services in our office, the most updated location for details is on our website on the In an Emergency tab. That will give you information about how we are delivering services virtually, as well as how that initial assessment process goes. So as I've said before, we're seeing students via therapist assisted online. We are also in the office to make sure that we have crisis coverage between 8 and noon and 1 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. And that's for folks that are in heightened levels of distress or their safety is compromised. So we're not seeing people for regular sessions, yet we are on call if there's an emergent issue. I do believe that might be everything that I wanted to share tonight. I do want to remind you that if you feel that student government could benefit from a particular content area, a training, to have one of the staff counselors or myself come in and meet in this particular group or smaller breakout groups, we are open to that. Historically, we've done training on suicide prevention in terms of gatekeeper training. Some of the different things that we've been recently doing with groups of students is talking about coping with shelter in place, coping with sense of isolation, maintaining a social life, dealing with stress and anxiety, dealing with homesickness. Those are some of the more common ones we've seen in the last several months. And so we're certainly available to visit with small groups as well as larger groups, or if you have a more unique type of content area, you can reach out to me. My contact information is LITHOMP@SIUE.edu, or you can just go to the website, call the front desk, and they'll get a message to me. I don't know, Vice President Ackman, if you are opening for questions or if you just needed content, but I'm going to pause there.
All right, thank you very much. And yes, if so, I'll now entertain a motion to open the floor for discussion.
Senator Aslam, so moved.
All right, it's been moved by Senator Aslan. Is there a second?
Senator Beck, second.
Seconded by Senator Beck. The floor is now open for discussion.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for coming to the meeting and sharing all of that information with us. I was wondering if you've had a lot of students using the virtual meeting option this semester.
You're talking about therapist assisted online?
Yes.
Yes, all of our business is being used through therapist assisted online. So in terms of our individual work and reminding folks in this meeting that that's also a platform available to you. You do not have to be on our caseload to be able to access the modules. You just simply have to have an SIUE.edu email and you log in, create an account, and you can do some self-guided work around topics like anxiety, stress, depression, mindfulness. There's a lot of different modules in there that people can do independent, and because you wouldn't be part of our caseload, would not necessarily be monitored. So you have that privacy protection. Thank you for asking that.
Hi, is there a limit on the number of sessions still that students are able to access through SIUE counseling services? And how has that changed with COVID, if it has at all?
Thanks for asking that question. We're considered a brief treatment center. And so we are focused on achieving whatever the student's goals are using a SMART plan. And so we work those details out when a student comes in for services at the beginning to determine if their goals can be met in a short-term setting like ours. We do not have a strict session limit like maybe you remember in prior generations and so forth, yet we do have to have measurable outcomes and also stay committed to being a short-term treatment site. And so that's dialogue that happens individually between the student and the therapist to be sure that folks are getting to the point that they desire, what initially brought them in for therapy, and then when they determine that it may be time to either step away from therapy and take a break, or if they might benefit from a referral into the community for longer term treatment. And so that's handled on a case-by-case basis. The short-term answer is, do we have session limits like we used to? No, we do not.
Internal Affairs Officer Lutz. So thank you so much for coming in. Do you have, does counseling service take insurance for the meetings, or how does that work?
So we are not in a place where we are facilitating insurance and processing insurance. So that would be a no at this point.
Senator Shahan, what kind of stops do you have in place to make sure that students who may be commuting this semester because their classes are online or just uncomfortable talking to a counselor over your counseling platform right now, whether that be Zoom or this therapist assistant, what kind of measures do you have in place to make sure that students feel comfortable of disclosing things over video calls around other people?
So because we're seeing everybody through teletherapy, that's our way of delivering services. Most of the students that we've worked with have responded positively. In the case where folks don't have a private space, for example, to have teletherapy, then we're working with them to help facilitate a referral into the community. As a sidebar, many of the therapists in the communities are continuing to deliver services virtually like we are, but there are some people who have taken measures to be able to safely meet with students in a person-to-person setting. So we do work with folks when they're uncomfortable with therapist assisted online to be able to see them, whether it be locally or another part of the state, for example.
Senator Aslan again. What are the current wait times looking like for getting from referral into counseling services?
So we haven't been in a situation where we've had a wait list for quite some time. If somebody were to call today and ask for an initial assessment, they can expect to be seen within the week or even next week. If we're sitting on Monday, so it would be within this week or next week that we'd be able to see somebody. Our triage counselor gets people placed, whether it be within our office or facilitating referral every week. So we're able to get folks through the pipeline at a pace that is a lot quicker than if you were to call a counselor off campus, where the wait time can be up to 3 weeks to see somebody.
There are no more questions. I will now entertain a motion to close the floor for discussion.
Senator Jones moves to close the floor for discussion.
All right, it's moved by Senator Jones. There a second?
Senator Brim, second.
All right, seconded by Senator Brim. Thank you for speaking to us today, Lisa.
Thank you. It was my true honor. I really enjoy seeing you all in the fall. I always try and get here in the spring, and I'm open to it. For some reason, it just hasn't happened the last. But anytime you need anything, please reach out, whether it be in your responsibility as a senator or just as a student. We're here to support you, especially during this transitional time. So give us a call, send us a message, and we'll be happy to accommodate. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Rhianne Greenwald from Health Services. Thank you for coming out today, Rhianne. Said you have 10 minutes to speak, and Senate does not have to respond.
Okay. Well, thanks for the invitation. I'm so glad that both Counseling and Health Service are able to speak to you tonight. As you know, we're co-located. I'm sure Lisa told you that. And so students have the opportunity to call one phone number for all of their healthcare needs, and we can coordinate their care. As you probably are aware, Health Service has been on ground and open every day from the beginning of last semester until today. And actually all of our staff are available, which is pretty unprecedented during this unprecedented times. And while we have changed some of the ways that we're interacting with students, we still are available on a daily basis. So in the past, you were able to just walk into a doctor's office, and unfortunately, that's not able to happen anymore with COVID. So students are encouraged to call our office. That's the easiest way to get into us. And we're seeing students usually on a daily basis. So if you called this morning, you would be seen this morning, or you would be seen sometime during the day. Students that are experiencing viral symptoms that could possibly be COVID, we ask that you first do a Zoom appointment so that doctors can do a triage of symptoms. And while we all worry now that a temperature or a cough or respiratory disease could possibly be COVID, many times it is not. And so it's always helpful to have a physician give us that assurance. If students were suspected of having COVID, they would either get an appointment for us to do a test in our office, or to go to a local area to do a test. You know, as you realize, students at SIUE are not mandated to have insurance. And currently, a COVID test runs about $100. If you have insurance, insurance is covering that, and it's not going, you're not having to pay a deductible to get to that amount. But if you don't have insurance, there isn't any support right now for that financially. So students that don't have insurance, we help them find a local area that is doing those for no additional charge. One of the quickest testing sites for doing the test and getting the results is in East St. Louis at Jackie Joyner Kersey. There's also a site at Wood River. And then Madison County also does rotating sites, which SIUE has been that site twice already. For students that we feel it's not COVID, they might need a strep screen or an allergy test. We've had them come into our office. So we've done telemedicine as well as on-ground appointments. And of course, we're still responsible for the immunizations for all incoming students. And so people have been able to make appointments for that and come into our office. Starting August 24th, we started a screening process for the university. So faculty, staff, and students were able to schedule an appointment if they had no symptoms and no fever to come to our office and get a COVID test. And we are doing about 16 to 18 of those tests per day. We've now secured a what we call SIUE Health Service Annex, which is at the University University Hair Salon. And that's where we'll be doing our screening tests. That's separate from our actual office visits. Our office is still able to do women's health. We still have a pharmacy that's functioning. And for students that might just forget a mask as they're coming onto campus, they can pop into our pharmacy and grab a mask for free. And so they don't have to run back to their res hall or to their apartment or to their car to get a mask. They can just come into our office. So we're able to continue to do all of our on-ground programming, but we do it with the caveat that all students that come into our space are screened. So they'll get a temperature check, and we'll also ask them questions that are, quote, the COVID questions. We have a variety of physicians available to us, a nurse practitioner for women's health, and then we're staffed with registered nurses, a medical technologist, and a pharmacist as well. So we have a lot of professional staff that are available to students that can either call for an appointment or call for a triage. I think that's a lot that's going on right now. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Rhiannon, I'll now entertain a motion to open the floor for discussion.
Senator Aslan, so moved.
All right, it's been moved by Senator Aslan. Is there a second?
Senator Beck, second.
Seconded by Senator Beck. The floor is now open for discussion.
Organization Relations Officer Akpin here. I was wondering how long approximately it would take students to get results back from the COVID tests.
So it depends on why you're getting a COVID test. And so anyone with symptoms or that has a concern that they were a close contact, those actually get sort of put to the top of the list. And depending on the volume that we are seeing any given day, really tells us how quickly we would get a result back. So for example, when we first started doing testing in our office, we were doing screenings for student athletes that were mandated by the OVC. And those took about 8 days to get back because they were screenings. They had no symptoms, they had no concerns. And so they were sort of put at the bottom of the list. In the same token, we saw several students that had symptoms that we were concerned about, and we got those back within 1 or 2 days. In fact, several of them we got back within 24 hours, which was pretty incredible. That's not the norm, depending on, again, how many are sent to Quest, because we send them all out. We don't have the ability to do the test in our office. So we like to see it happen within 72 hours, especially if we're concerned that a student is ill, because it doesn't start medication, but it does change the way we treat someone. The difference between quarantine, which means we're concerned, to isolation, which means they are a positive.
Senator Sherman, does Health Services currently offer the antibody test for COVID-19? And if not, where is the closest place to get one?
So currently, the antibody test has not been approved for the FDA. And so we are not doing that test. The reliability and the specificity are well below a standard for the FDA. I believe if you were concerned that you thought you might have had COVID and you'd like to see if you have any antibodies, you probably could do that through your primary care provider. But that is not a standardized test right now in labs.
Diversity Officer Mackenzie. Hi, I just wanted to ask, like, I saw that there was a total of COVID cases per week, but is there like a running total for the university?
So what we are providing right now are how many cases we're seeing on a weekly basis. You could, if you want a cumulative, you could just add them up. But what it doesn't really tell you is how many people have already recovered from those first several tests. So most people, thank goodness, in this age group are seeing about a 14-day illness, which is unusual. The older someone is, or if they have underlying symptoms, that may be well past 14 days. But so to add up the numbers of students, it sort of gives you a, I think, a false number of what's actually going on campus, because the first, I think we had 3 in the first week that we started in August. Those students are all recovered. And so we wouldn't have been counting them now. So if you look at numbers, I would say probably the last 2 weeks are probably what's active on campus at any given moment.
Is it possible to do the running total and like those that are recovered? Because like when you initially look at it, it's kind of like misleading. Because like if you're just looking at it by the week and then it like restarts, it's not truly the total amount of cases that are at SIUE.
So the number that we're looking at are number of cases that either we have found to be positive or that students self-report that's positive. So there may be students that are never going to be on campus, or they didn't report to us how many students there are, whether or not they're positive or not. I think we are looking at maybe adding an additional column that says this was the past cumulative and then a recovery rate, something similar to what Madison County is doing right now. We just don't want people to look and say, oh my gosh, there's 3,500 people that are positive, because obviously over time they've recovered. But I understand what you're talking about. I think that, again, for right now, when I look at that number, I'm looking at the last 2 weeks as probably active cases on campus.
Senator Perry, hi, a question I have for you is regarding students that don't have health insurance. Is health services providing them information for transportation? Because I know a lot of like Madison County does drive-through COVID tests. So is there a way that students without insurance can do those tests still?
So thanks, that's a great question. And I think we are all concerned of students that are underinsured or uninsured, because I think that sometimes medical debt stops people from being able to be a successful student. And we've talked about mandating insurance, but it never seems to be the right time. And it seems like there's plenty of other places for money to go. And so when we did the COVID website, if you go on the COVID website and you go to testing and reporting, there at the very bottom, it not only lists us, but it lists Madison County and other areas where you can go for testing that's at no additional charge. And I'm happy to send that I'm not sitting at my office right this second. Sorry about that. But I can send that specifically to you guys so that you'll know where that is and could help students go there.
Rianne, sorry, I'm going to interject here for a second. Rianne, in your office, you are seeing students who need to be screened, whether they have insurance or not, correct?
There's students that have no symptoms and yes, that are
Yes.
requesting to be screened. Yes.
So we're not creating a barrier for students to get screened, Lindsay, if that's the question, on campus. So the chancellor and chancellor's council decided that we would cover those costs. Rianne is tracking those, but we weren't going to have a barrier for students who need to be seen on campus.
Senator Wheeler, I have a question in regard to that statement that maybe Rianne can answer. So in terms of the screening, that's the temperature check, and then the questions asked about if they have had certain symptoms, if they've been exposed in the past 21 days, have they traveled, etc. It's not an actual test where they would get a result, correct?
No, it is a result. It's the exact same test. It's the exact same test. We call it screening because there's no medical diagnostic to it. A physician's not determining whether or not you need tested. That's all the difference.
Senator Aslan, I was just wondering if there's a long wait list for students to get screened and how long that wait list is.
So believe it or not, we started last Monday, and all last week we had openings the entire week for people to be able to be tested. Now I can tell you we've started to test on our campus, on Edwardsville campus, Monday through Thursday. And on Friday, we go to the Alton Dental School site. And then in the afternoon, we go to the East St. Louis site. So there's 4 days that there's capability of being tested. And I don't believe, well, no one's called me to say, gosh, I really wanted to be screened, but there's no time for that available. There are openings almost every day.
Thank you.
Thanks. And the great news about that particular, the screening is it comes with a reminder that's a text. So instead of like my office always trying to call people and they don't want to answer and they don't have voicemail, this actually just sends you a text to remind you of what your appointment time is.
Student Trustee Graham. Hi, Ryan. Thank you for coming in and joining us tonight. Going back to kind of clarify from Maddie's question earlier about having a total, I understand that like a cumulative total could get confusing since there's be recovered cases. Was the column you guys were considering adding that you said Madison County reports on a column that has active cases versus recovered cases?
That's what we're trying to do.
Okay, cool.
Marketing and Communications Officer Ballard. So earlier you mentioned how not all the cases are, so I'm just confused on this. So whenever someone gets tested that is a part of the SIUE staff or SIUE students, are they required to send that to you, or is it just they don't have to and tell you that they tested positive? How does that work?
So we're asking any faculty, staff, or student that is been notified by the county department that they are close contact not to come to campus. We're asking anyone that's positive not to be on campus unless they're a resident, live in res halls, and we help them with their isolation. Could someone not report to us? I'm sure they could. You know, you can't force someone to do it, but COVID is a communicable disease that is mandated to be reported to the health department. And so through many avenues, we find out that students need support. And that's really what the reporting is all about. When a student says, I've been notified as a close contact, or I'm ill, it's to help them either communicate with their faculty that they won't be attending class, or they need some medical support not to attend class, or they live in the res halls and they need food delivered and laundry to be done. So it's totally to provide resources and support. It is not to point anyone out. And all of that information continues, just like in our office, to be confidential data. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Thanks.
If there are no more questions, I'll now entertain a motion to close the floor for discussion.
Senator Aslan, so moved.
It's been moved by Senator Aslan. Is there a second?
Senator Perry.
Senator Kroger, second.
It's been seconded by Senator Perry. Thank you, Rianne.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate your time. Sorry, there was a little crisis going on and I wasn't able to join you at 6, but I appreciate you moving things around for me. Thanks so much.
Of course, thank you for coming. All right, our next speaker will be Dr. Jeffrey Wapel, the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, who will be speaking about the current status of student life in terms of operations due to COVID-19. Thank you for coming out today, Dr. Wapel.
Well, sure. Good to see everyone. Welcome back to campus in whatever form that is, whether that's online, hybrid, or on ground. Sorry, we're not meeting face to face, but this will do for the moment. I hope you've all had a good first week of school and classes. And if you're having challenges, whether it's in the classroom or outside the classroom, please let us know so we can help solve some of those. I remember we were on our core meeting, day 1 of classes, and our person in charge of IT wrote us and said, we're having a Zoom problem. And there was a regional Zoom problem on day 1. And we thought, well, here we go. So really, I think the questions that we got prior to the start of school, and even now, I think students are a little confused of what we can't do, but really it's more about what we can do. In fact, we're doing things mostly the same way, we're just doing it a little differently. So, if you were in the MUC last week, we had our annual Blizzard event, but we weren't handing out blizzards because we can't do that. But instead, our great team and campus activities board figured out how to do coupons and prepackaged shirts, and we still had a student engagement event. Haley can attest to this. We just had a sorority recruitment, a virtual sorority recruitment, pretty successful sorority recruitment this past week, and IFC starting their recruitment this week. We're still going to have events on campus. They're going to look different. The dining's open if you've not been down to Center Court. I would encourage you, if you can, if you're able, and do it safely, come see the setup down in Center Court. All the food operations are open except for Chick-fil-A, and it will be open soon. I know a lot of you have asked when, and we're working on a technical issue with the new kiosk ordering in our cashier checking out area. And once we get that glitch fixed, we'll have that open, hopefully very soon. Not going to give you a date because Miriam frowns at me when I give dates out. So I just say opening this fall, as she's nodding her head. But if you've not tried out Pavo's Pizza yet, you need to do it. It's phenomenal. New pizza place on campus. Tomorrow we will be officially doing a grand opening, small grand opening of the new Starbucks in the library. It was supposed to open in March, but we had COVID. So now we're opening it up officially tomorrow, but it's been operating for about a week. If all of those who are here as freshman or sophomore on campus, if you remember what Starbucks was in the MUC, that's what the new library is. So it doesn't have the hot food and it doesn't have the nitro, but it does just about everything else that Starbucks used to do in the muck, if that makes sense. So it has espresso and frozen drinks and teas and coffees, and we have some ambient pastries, meaning they don't need to be heated up. So there's some coffee cake and some donuts and things in there of that nature. Skywalk is reopened, if you remember that, it's grab and go between founders and alumni, and the Muck Trucks Out and Freshens is open in the Student Fitness Center. So our dining operations are open and alive and well. Campus Rec is alive and well, and I think late night of the Rec is coming up this week. Maybe next. Sorry, Miriam, when is it? When is it?
It was last Friday.
Oh, it was last Friday. Okay, last Friday. My bad.
You're muted, Dr. Whitepool.
Yeah, I know. I hit a button. Technology is great. We've set up a process for student organizations to host events and follow the campus safety plan. And so I can tell you I've approved about 45 off-campus events in the last week. And I know Kelly Jo and her team are approving on-campus events. So there's still things going on. They just look a little different. Miriam, you want to add anything? We're going to tag team on this a little bit. Surprise, Miriam. Do you want to add anything to that?
I pulled up a couple pages on the coronavirus website, which I don't know if that would be helpful for you all to kind of walk through some of the changes. You've seen dining, obviously. We know that we've made some changes there in terms of the way that service works. Campus recreation, obviously, we have some changes there just in terms of compliance. So there are certain spaces that we have to distance equipment. There are certain spaces that just don't make sense to have open. So like the rock climbing wall, by the time we comply with the number of people per square foot that can be in the space, only one person can climb because we need like 2 people to be the staff. And so it just didn't make sense to keep that open. But we're trying really hard where we can to work within the guidelines while also keeping folks safe. So I know it's difficult for you all as students. You want to access a lot of the great things that we've built through student engagement and being able to balance that with the safety components. The safety is going to be our top priority. So I just ask for your patience and your flexibility as we go. We spent months kind of putting things together without actually having students or faculty or staff here to test them or to give us feedback. And so, in reality, we're 1 week in, one week and a day into the semester. And so we're constantly refining, constantly revising. But at the end of the day, we will take our guidance always from the state of Illinois and from Madison County. And those are our requirements to follow. So
I want to add before I forget that point, Miriam. So as students and as student leaders, you need to know that there's a core team that meets every morning. We're meeting every morning, sometimes really early before probably many of you are awake. And we review all the health data that's in the county, in the region, in the state. We look at the trends. We look at what's happening on the testing front, what's happening with the U of I testing model. We look at what IDPH says, what CDC says. For our early childhood center, what DCFS says. We're looking at a lot of guidance. We've hired some additional staff to help us. If many of you remember Mike Schultz, former director of housing, he is back as our COVID coordinator. It's going to help guide some of these discussions and stay on top of what's happening. We're watching, and we'll probably be shifting again here in a couple of days. The positivity rate in the county and the region keeps going up in the wrong direction. You've heard some of the mitigation strategies already, bars close 11, but all those things. Meeting size, we're expecting some shift in that again. in the next couple of days. So we'll make sure that Maddie and Jacob and others are aware of if there's any shifts. So you're aware and you can help students be aware of that. But we're meeting every day. And Rianne was too nice. She's done a lot of the heavy lifting with the health stuff. Miriam's done a lot of the heavy lifting with all the forms. And I was just texting Miriam to say, well, maybe we should pull up the reporting forms, because I don't know if you've all been on the coronavirus website. If you've not, you should go there and take a peek. I mean, we've spent a lot of time trying to think of every situation and everything that we could think of to get ready for you all to come back, and then how we would continue to operate as an institution in this pandemic time. So so just want to be aware that there's a group meeting and we're thinking all the time. Sorry, Miriam.
That's fine.
So,
I don't know if it would be helpful for folks. I'm happy to kind of walk through a couple of those pieces of the website if that would be beneficial. I know you can't really respond, but if your nonverbals would like to say yes or no, I'm happy to happy to do that quickly. I'm not going to run through everything, but I think there's just a couple pieces that I would want to make sure that you're aware of. The first, as Dr. Waple said, is how to get to, so I'm going to start back out at the beginning. This is the main page. There you've got some super famous people on here. But Campus Messages is just what it sounds like. It's a spot where you can go search campus-wide messages that went either to the student list or the announce list. And you can slice and dice and filter now. So we've gotten some additional capabilities there. The university plan and policy is the return to SIUE plan that obviously we had sent out, I want to say mid-July, but you'll see every time we revise it, which is pretty frequently, you'll see a new revised date. So I think the last thing we may have changed on the 13th was something about face coverings to be, I think it was a revision on face covering requirements that you have to be actively eating or drinking to have your face covering off. So we were trying to get from, hey, just because you're walking around with your Starbucks doesn't mean you can have your face mask down. So anyway, you know, it's searchable. These pull down menus are like the easiest way to get to whatever you're really looking for. So that is that page. Not too much changes on there, but I just want to call attention to it. The training and campus safety, our Cougar Commitment Pledge is right front and center. And so if you haven't taken that already, we'd encourage you to do so by signing your name here, signing the pledge, and then sharing that out through your social media networks. We've also have an overall COVID-19 training that was made available to faculty, staff, and students that we'd encourage you to take. The other piece that we're looking at that's available for folks is this Clear the Air. And really this is intended to help you be prepared to talk to others who may not be following those people-focused health and safety requirements. So I know this is kind of small. I'll see if I can get it to be a little bit bigger. I'm not sure I can. You know, but I think for a lot of people, it's difficult, or it's difficult and stressful when you see someone without a mask to know what to say. So the intent is we really don't want to create an environment where you know, someone forgets their mask in their car and we're calling the police to come confront that, right? We really want this to be kind of a community to community member interaction. And so we've tried to help folks just with the tools to say, hey, you know, if you forgot one here, I know where we can get one, or hey, I've got an extra one if you do have an extra one. And so being knowledgeable about where those white masks that have the red E on them are available is also very helpful. And I'll show you that in a second. But, you know, we'd like you to kind of move through several stages before you would need to escalate further. So that is available here and now really big. There's a lot of confusion, I think, sometimes over what the difference between isolation and quarantine is. Rianne gave you a really good example, or a really good way to remember it, which I use all the time, is isolation means illness. So put your eyes together. Someone who is ill in terms of being positive, having a positive test result, is who would be required to be in isolation. Quarantine is for somebody who may have been exposed but doesn't have test results. One thing I think that Rianne would want me to stress is that having a clear test doesn't get you out of quarantine. So if you go into quarantine for 14 days and you go take a test on day 7 and it's negative, that doesn't mean you're free and clear to come out of quarantine. Quarantine lasts for 14 days. Okay. Other just good, I think, information. We often get questions about what the cleaning and closure of spaces protocol looks like. So if someone was positive in a space, how are you making sure it's clean? That's also available here. Probably the most commonly used part of the site is this health reporting and testing section. So as Dr. Wapel shared, the self-reporting form, self-disclosure form is located right here. We really do, and I think generally folks have been really good. I know somebody asked a question about could somebody not report their illness or they're positive? Certainly that's a possibility, but knowing the volume that we've had come in, I think folks are reporting when they are a close contact, they're reporting when they're feeling symptomatic but don't have a test yet, they're using this form. So we just encourage you to help others know that that's there. There is also a third-party reporting form, and this would be used potentially in an instance where you're familiar or someone knows that somebody else maybe fits one of the conditions that is outlined up here, but is saying that they're not going to report it because they don't want to. So this, and it's not intended to be a tattletale item. It's a safety concern, right? So we do have that third-party reporting form. The third-party reporting form is not needed if you know that the person's reported it. It's really intended for, for example, you may have somebody who ends up in the hospital and can't fill the self-disclosure form out, not God forbid, right? But that's also what that third-party form would look like. We've created what I think is a pretty helpful tool under the illness and exposure tab as well. And so what it does is walks through a lot of the definitions that are confusing to folks, but we've also broken it down. So if you're a student and you fit one of these categories, here's your, step-by-step instructions of what you should be doing. We've created the same thing for faculty, staff, and student employees. So I think it's important to understand that if you're also a student employee, yes, you kind of get treated as a student, but you also kind of follow the human resources lens as well. So that's important to know. But these next ones I think are equally as important. And I'm going to scroll down to the student one. So this is what you should do if somebody else tells you that they fit one of the criteria. So again, it talks about telling them to fill out that self-reporting form, doing the third-party form if you need to, making sure that they're not coming to campus. I mean, not that you're physically not letting them to campus, but making sure they're aware of what those pieces look like and what their obligations are to help stopping the spread. The testing information is here under the testing tab. Lindsay, I think you asked maybe, and I think maybe you were asking about transportation to the drive-through things if somebody doesn't have transportation, but we have linked out to the other testing sites here in the community or potentially in other people's community if they're commuting from St. Louis or St. Clair or things like that. But then the links to testing on campus are available here. And then lastly, we've just updated the COVID dashboard. And as was mentioned today, I probably by Friday's update, you'll see a little bit more in terms of like cumulative data and how we're going to report some of those pieces. But this is actually a really significant expansion from what we've had in previous weeks. So previous weeks, we only had this table. We've now added testing results because we didn't have testing before. And we've also added the availability of isolation and quarantine space. So I think a couple of key things to remember. The positivity numbers that we report up here would be for people who could have been on campus during the time of the infection. So somebody, for example, who all their classes were online and they are in Chicago and they're taking all their classes online and they had their textbooks shipped to them and they've never been to campus, they're not going to show up in this report because they're not impacting the campus community. It's not that we don't know that they're positive. It's not that health service isn't interfacing with them, but that's not a reflection of the current campus community impact. So I wanted to make sure that folks were aware of that piece. And the way that we sequence that is they need to have not been on campus within 14 days. So again, knowing that 14 days, that quarantine period, that would be that period of potential exposure. So just wanted to kind of point those items out. And then the last thing is this resources section. Probably the key things that I think are going to be most helpful for you all are directions about how to host in-person events and all of the associated requirements with that. I'm the first person to tell you there is a lot of requirements to hosting an in-person event. This is not an easy form to fill out. It is not an easy process to follow. But to be frank, hosting in-person events is one of the potential spots that there's just a potential for spread, right? Like anytime you're bringing people together, we want you to have thought through how to keep people safe. And so it is a long process that requires lots of detail. We also require that attendance lists be submitted 24 hours after the conclusion of the event. And that is essentially, should there be a need to do contact tracing, that we can go back to an attendance sheet and we're not having to hunt somebody down. So it has to be submitted within 24 hours is the expectation. The last thing for folks who are hosting in-person events, I would just share, or just for you all in general, is we have added this communications toolkit. So we're telling student organizations and departments, you've got to make sure that you've got this wellness screening checklist visible at the entrance to your event. You've got to make sure that you've got appropriate seating and spacing. You've got to make sure you've got floor signs, but we hadn't made those available. So this way you can go right on and download the items for yourself. So I'm going to pause because do we get a combined 20 minutes together?
That's what I did without asking Ronald. So
yeah, I mean, I'll pause at this point. I think the only other one I would just call out is this campus operations tab at the top of resources as well, which does list locations for face mask pickups. So all students have access to that one face mask. If I am being honest here, I would just rather people have face masks. So please don't show up and get 20 of them. But if you forgot one day and you want to go get another one there, I would rather err on the side of people having face masks than.
And we ordered extra, so don't worry about it.
The other thing I would just share, we had a lot of feedback about students being concerned of having face-to-face classes back-to-back with asynchronous, with synchronous classes. And how do you get from my campus class to my residence hall or my apartment or my off-campus home quickly? So I just think that this is really important to know that some of our smaller classrooms that were too small to host classes in have been converted to study rooms. And so 2 or 3 people that, need to find a space to be in that class, they don't have to be in the same class. They can just find their space in that classroom together. Still need masks, still need the same, follow the same policies, that those study rooms are available. And there's a PDF link here for that. So
I'm sorry to have to interrupt, but
please do.
Yeah, I think it's time to close that down. Sorry, but thank you for speaking today. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Are there any questions for us, Vice President Akpen?
If anybody does have any questions, I want to entertain a motion, open the floor for discussion.
This might be a first.
Senator Shahan moved.
All right, it's been moved by Senator Shahan. Is there a second?
Senator Jackson, second.
All right, seconded by Senator Jackson. The floor is now open for discussion.
Senator Shahan, I guess I can direct this to Dr. Wapple because you talked about dining earlier. One of the things I've noticed as a commuter is there's really like no places inside usually to eat since tables have been moved outside. When it gets colder, are there going to be any like other places that are open, like for example, conference rooms or anything like that for commuter students that don't have residence halls to go eat in between like classes or anything like that near dining hall or near the dining hall?
So we are looking at the first 2 weeks traffic patterns of our students coming in and out of center court and looking where the especially during our high point time, which is really between about 10:30 and 2. And then Nick Rekowitz, who's our Associate Director of Operations, and Kelly Jo Carnes, our Director, and Miriam and our dining staff will be looking at adding where we could add additional seating while still meeting the DCOE guidelines of how much capacity we can have. I think that's one of the challenges we're having right now is we're limited because of those guidelines because we have to de-densify the building. So but yes, right now it's beautiful. We've had how many days really without rain? You can be outside, but yeah, as the weather turns, we're gonna have to think about how to support students inside, especially inside the MUC and SSC, and we'll be looking into that. But that's a good question.
Diversity Officer McKenzie, this is a question for either one of you guys, if you can answer it. You're talking about events like having to go through a process if you want to like have it in person. Is that the same for like walkthrough events? Because I was thinking about doing the Tunnel of Oppression this year, and people just like walk through that. Like, how would that work?
Yes.
Okay.
Diversity Officer McKenzie, you're going to have to fill out one of those forms. And Robin, who is your support staff, can help you because she's already filled out 2 forms for student government for headshots and one other thing. So yes, but really, yeah, because at any one time, you don't know how many people there are going to be. It's probably going to be more than 10. So you would need to do that, yes. And figure out how to do that, tunnel of oppression, social distance wise. And so we have all these floor markers that are temporary. If you were at the Blizzard event, you saw green, yellow, blue, orange floor markers that we put out 6 feet apart, which helps us with that social, and then we pick them up and move them to the next meeting. So there's a way to do it. And I hope you think creatively how to do it because we need to have that event.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Perry, this question's for Dr. Wapple or Miriam, whoever can answer it. I know this is really far in advance, but it's something I really care about. Have you guys thought about how or if we will have on-campus voting?
Voting for?
The election in November.
Yes, so yes, we are the MUC is a voting site for election day. We are figuring out how to do that safely. One thing that's helping us, whether you know this or not, is that election day there won't be classes on election day. And they've made it a state holiday so people have that day off to vote. Now we'll still be open because we have residence hall students and dining and the MUC, but we're figuring out a way to safely do that. If you can vote in Madison County. See, I did have that answer.
Internal Affairs Officer Lutz, do you happen to know, I know that there's shortened hours on the MUC and the SSC this semester. Do you happen to know the hours of the library off the top of your head?
Yes, I think it's, was it Miriam, 9 to 7?
I think it's 8 to 7.
8 to 7?
8 to 7, Monday through Friday, I think.
Yeah.
I'll pull it up for you.
Is it the same for all the academic buildings?
No,
Shouldn't be.
shouldn't be. So and you know, the MUC, and I know the hours are different. One of the things that's that's a challenge for us that we had to think through is the Restore to Illinois plan and the IDPH safety plan requires us to clean spaces. And we only, our second shifters only work from a certain period of time to a certain period of time. And so that's why the hours are looking a little funky for us. Is because we have to get in. I mean, you can think about this. If you've been in the MUC, you may know that we've converted the ballroom into academic course delivery space. One half is a computer teaching lab. The other place is a lecture hall, and Fixins is a restaurant, now a academic space all the time. So we have to get in and clean those spaces and all the meeting spaces and all the bathrooms and all the door handles. I mean, it's a lot, right? And we were cleaning before, but now it's even, we have to do a little bit more deep cleaning than we have before. So that's why the hours are a little different than the past. I'll also tell you that you didn't ask the question, but we are working on the spring schedule already. Because you all will start registering for classes the end of September, beginning of October for spring term. And so the registrar's office and the provost's office and Miriam and a bunch of us are involved in that discussion. And I will tell you that the ballroom and the Fixins will be academic course delivery space in the spring as well. So those spaces will not change for course delivery. So just wanted to be aware of that. And we would assume from talking to our academic colleagues that one of the things and Maddie was on the task force, the academic continuity plan task force. I remember that. Is that because you all registered way back early in the spring, we couldn't really change the course times that were there. So the registrar is working on probably expanding his course time. So I would assume that there's going to be more evening classes, more Friday classes, maybe even some weekend classes. We'll see what they come up with, especially at the undergraduate level. But we'll see. So good question.
Senator Aslan, I was just wondering if there's plans or any kind of thing that's going to happen for graduates of the class of 2020, or if the virtual graduation ceremonies was all that's happening for them.
So, Bridget, I can tell you that if you right now to Restore Illinois in our region mitigations or gatherings at 25. That means December virtual graduation and we're trying to think of a way to do. We're trying to think of how we could do. When it was 50, it was a little bit easier. 25 just makes it nearly impossible to do anything on ground that makes sense. And December also, the weather, you never know. I think that's another big challenge for us. And then in spring, I would assume we're going to have virtual, unless something major happens where the vaccine is available and they let larger groups meet. But I think for the health and safety of everyone involved, you should expect virtual graduations. Yes, Bridget, you'll be going through virtual graduation probably in the spring. But we have to do that because we just can't bring large groups, especially large groups that are coming from all across the country. So that's where we are right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you both for coming out to speak today. Unfortunately, due to timing, I have to stop questions there. But if anyone else has any questions they'd like to ask Miriam or Dr. Waite, will you email them or reach out to them?
I'm going to put my email in the chat. And if you guys haven't had it already, you can email me with any questions that you have. Okay.
Well, sounds good. Well, thank you both for coming out today. Really appreciate it. I'm moving on to line item 5, Senator reports.
So Ronald, you want me to
Starting
call
with
each senator?
Aslan.
My report is not in the packet, but I'm looking forward to this year of student government with everyone.
Sorry, I was having some problems. My computer kind of glitched for a bit. I'm sorry.
I have the list in front of me, Ronald, if you'd like me to do it.
All right, yeah, that's perfect. Thank you, Robin.
Yeah. Senator Beck.
My report is not in the packet. I'm going to reach out to the Dean of the School of Business, Dean Schoenecker, to see if there's anything that Sam and I can do to help out. But I'm looking forward to working with all you guys. So.
Senator Brim.
My report is not in the packet. However, I do plan on reaching out to Dean Hughes for the School of Education, Health, and Human Behavior. And I will look forward to working with all of you, but especially Haley, as she's my counterpart.
Senator Burnett.
My report is not in the packet, and I met with the Assistant Dean for School of Nursing, and we are brainstorming ideas to get nursing students more involved on campus.
Senator Childerson.
My report is not in the packet, but I'm really looking forward to working with all of you, and then working especially with Ricky, with Senator Beck, in order to help out our constituents in the School of Business.
Senator Gorin.
My report is not in the packet, but I'm looking forward towards a successful semester with you all, and I plan on emailing the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences.
Senator Ho.
My report is not in the packet, but I'm looking forward to working with all of you and possibly meeting in the future.
Senator Jackson.
My report is not in the packet. If there is a way I can reach out to everybody and see who's interested in doing that training with counseling services that was spoke about earlier, I'd like to learn that way so I can reach out to you guys and get groups of who is interested in that suicide prevention like she was talking about. So I'll try to find a way on Teams to do that and get a response from everybody. That's all.
Senator Jones.
My report is not in the packet. I have some things that I'm already working on for the School of Engineering, but I look forward to working with all of you this year.
Senator Krager.
My report is not in the packet, but I have been working on brainstorming ideas of ways that I can have events for my constituents, whether that be social distanced or on a virtual platform.
Senator Morgan.
My report is not in the packet. That being said, though, very happy to be working with everybody here, and like Senator Ho said, maybe get onto campus, hopefully get onto campus sometime spring or fall, or well, probably not fall, but spring maybe.
Senator Obert.
My report is not in the packet, but I look forward to working with you all.
Senator Odell.
My report is not in the packet, but I have been reaching out to my constituents to see what I can do for them to make the online learning a little bit easier. And I look forward to working with all of you, especially Senator Brim.
Senator Perry.
My report is not in the packet, but I've been working with the graduate school to create the graduate school welcome, as well as Ashley Chitwood in marketing and communications to create a graduate student Facebook page. And I look forward to working with you all.
Senator Pruitt.
My report is not in the packet, but I'm excited to find out what needs to be improved on this campus.
Senator Randolph.
My report is not in the packet. I look forward to working with all of you, and especially Senator Jones, to help the School of Engineering students as much as I can. And this week, I'm going to reach out to the Dean of the School of Engineering for any concerns or needs that he has.
Senator Sherman?
My report is not in the packet, but I have already reached out to Dr. Roble, and this week I'm going to reach out to the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences.
Senator Shahan?
My report is not in the packet, but I'm really excited to be working with you all this year. If you have anything that you want me to help you work on, send it my way. I'd love to see like everything that's being worked on. And I'd also love to try to coordinate some kind of like virtual mental health weeks, kind of like do some trainings like Senator Jackson said, things like that. So if you guys are interested in that, just let me know and I can try to coordinate something as well. Thanks.
Senator Shaw?
My report is not in the packet, and the pharmacy school is running at full speed right now as we started way back at the beginning of August. And so I have been working a lot in terms of organizational affairs, and I am excited to be working with everyone as well as Senator Wensing.
Senator Wheeler?
Our report is not in the packet. I plan on reaching out to Dean Popkis this week as I settle into the second week of school to keep up with the concerns and well-being of the nursing students, as well as addressing some concerns and questions about summer clinical being canceled this past summer and the possibilities of it occurring next summer, as well as a makeup summer clinical for this current junior class who had theirs canceled, and just a few other ideas and concerns and keeping up to date on everything in the School of Nursing.
Senator Wensing?
My report is not in the packet. As of right now, I'm working on creating a Senator meet and greet with Senator Shao to let our pharmacy constituents know who we are and what we are doing. And I look forward to working with everyone here.
All right, moving on to line item 6, executive reports.
President Walters?
It's been so great to see you all tonight. I wish that we could be in person, but this is also a lot of fun to see you. I just wanted to say that I'm going to be starting a virtual office hours time, probably starting next week, open to all of you to come in and chat with me, and also to just students in general who would like to come in and chat with me. So be on the lookout for an email with some Zoom information for that. I'm thinking it'll be probably Tuesday at noon, but I haven't really solidified the date yet. So just be on the lookout for that.
Vice President Actan?
All right, so one thing I have to talk about is for virtual office hours. So I know a couple senators have reached out to me that have had to move office hours virtually, whether it's due to having a quarantine or having online class and not being able to be on campus. So yeah, just for senators, if you for some reason have to do your office hours virtually, just please let me know ahead of time. Give me the times that usually be virtual dates along with a Zoom link, and that'll be it. Thank you.
Student Trustee Graham?
The only thing that I have to report on right now is that the next Board of Trustees meeting will be September 17th. It's a Thursday, and it's going to be through Zoom and YouTube. So I will share that link with you guys once I get it.
Finance Officer Dreppert?
My report is that I will begin working with the Finance Board soon to revise the funding manual to accommodate the virtual environment.
Internal Affairs Officer Lutz?
My report is not in the packet, but like Financial Officer Dreppert just said, so committees, I'm sending them out after Senate today, so be on the lookout. I have also been in contact with a couple of you regarding like schedule issues or if you didn't send in an application, so just be on the lookout for all of that. And I'm also working on some SG bonding activities too, so I will keep you in the loop with that.
External Affairs Kyle?
So currently I'm working on verifying all of our student discount programs, and I'm also working on planning our SG meet and greet. So I will be posting in Teams later a doodle poll for you all to fill out if you'd like to get involved with that. I just need some times. There will be an in-person option as well as a virtual option. And I may be asking all of you to make a Flipgrid just for those people that cannot attend our virtual or in-person option, just so they know how to reach you and what your kind of goals are for this year.
Marketing Communications Officer Ballard.
So I have been working on the get to know the student government officers. So please make sure that you're following our social media so then you can see you guys being featured. Also, if you haven't sent those out to me, please get those sent out, and I'll be sending an email to the freshmen so they can get those forms filled out too. So that's all I have.
Organization Relations Officer Akpan.
I'm excited to see the full committee this Friday at the SOAB meeting. My report's not in the packet, by the way. And we have a lot of organizations petitioning this year specifically, and I'm excited to be a part of this all since like it's an online year kind of, and organizations are going to play like a really big role. So.
And Student Diversity Officer McKenzie.
So my report is not in the packet, and I've done a few things this first week. So I was trying to reach out to the current 2020-2021 recognized student organizations to kind of just let them know that I'm like a resource to them. And I wanted to potentially maybe sit in on some of their meetings, like some of the minority groups. I'm also working on a presentation for Diversity Day 2020. And during that time, I want to talk about systemic racism in higher education and like the difference between being non-racist and anti-racist. And then some of the current initiatives that student government and the institution is doing to be committed to being anti-racist.
All right, thank you. Moving on to line item 7, additions to agenda, seeing none. We'll now move on to line item 8, old business, seeing none. And I move on to line item 9, new business. Line A, oath of office. I will now move that over to Dr. Waple.
Vice President Akpan, who am I administering the oath of office to?
So you're doing it to President, so President Walters, myself, the VP, along with the senators who were elected.
All right, so they know who they are, so.
Hold on,
right?
am I included in that, Ronald?
Were you sworn? So no trustee, was that swearing happening in July or did it not happen?
I don't think we ever did it in a student government meeting, but I did start my position in July.
Since you're an elected official, you would be during Dr. Waple's swearing, yes.
Yeah, so.
Okay, yeah, so I'm
yes.
doing the trust. Sorry about that.
Right, so basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say aye and then state your name. So those people who are being sworn in will state your name, and then I'll say a line or two and you repeat the line or two and we'll get to the end, all right? So you all gonna have to unmute,
or can
you're gonna have to unmute yourself, yep, and make sure background noise is off. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. All right, so I state your name.
Hi, Bridget.
Yeah, this is fun. Solemnly promise to perform my duties.
Solemnly promise to
perform my duties
and responsibilities to the best of my ability.
responsibilities
to the best of my ability.
While preserving the mission and values of the university.
I preserve
preserve the mission
the
and
mission and
values
values
of the university.
university.
I also vow
I also
vow
to uphold the Constitution
to uphold the Constitution
the Constitution
and bylaws
and
the bylaws
laws
of SIUE student government
of SIUE student government
government
while striving for the betterment
while striving for the
betterment
of the university
of the university
university
for all students, faculty, and staff.
for all
students,
students,
faculty, and staff.
faculty, and staff.
Congratulations, you're now official, and that wasn't that painful.
Striving for the betterment of the university. For all students, faculty, and staff.
So, all right, now moving on to line item 10 for presidential appointments / personnel appointments. I'll now hand it over to President Walters.
All right, so you probably have met all of the exec members already, but I'm gonna give them each a quick introduction, just for a refresher for you guys. I'm gonna start with Marketing and Communications Officer Ballard. I was really impressed with Sophia's experience working in other marketing areas. She had an internship and she had been doing some marketing for other student orgs, and I really liked a lot of the stuff that she had been doing for them. Moving on to Organization Relations Officer Akpan. Will became a freshman senator last year at the start of the new semester, and I was very impressed with the work he did then. I was also very impressed with some of the ideas that he brought to the interview to do this year. Financial Officer Dreppard. There were a lot of really good applications. She really stuck out to me as being very organized and being able to make a lot of the decisions that the financial officer has to make in a very thorough and thought out way. External Affairs Officer Kyle. Caitlin actually stepped into the External Affairs position last spring when it became vacant and didn't get an opportunity to do very much in that position because of coronavirus. But I thought she had a lot of great ideas and I thought she deserved a chance to actually get to do some of those things. So that's why I thought she would be a great External Affairs Officer this year. And then Internal Affairs Officer Lutz. The Internal Affairs position is unique because they don't really have a committee, so they need to be very organized and very on top of things to be able to do all the stuff that Internal Affairs does themselves, and I thought she showed a lot of those skills. And then lastly, Diversity Officer Mackenzie. Madeline was a senator last year who also served on the Diversity Committee, and I thought she had a lot of great experience in that area as well as a lot of great ideas for this year. So unless I forgot someone, those 6 are the executive board for this year that I have chosen.
All right, well, if anybody has any questions for any of the newly elected exec board members, I'll entertain a motion to open the floor for discussion. If not, we can go ahead and swear them in. All right, seeing there are no questions, Dr. Waple, may you take it from here, please?
I think this one might be me.
Yep, this is President Walters.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Typically, we have a vote for approval from Senate. Are we skipping that this year?
Oh yeah, we can go ahead and do a roll call vote from Senate.
Robin, do you have that roll call vote?
Yep, sorry. Senator Aslan. Senator Aslan?
So we just let's back up for a moment. We need to tell the senators what they're voting on. So someone needs to make a motion we need to go through that process to approve the blah, 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 and then second it. And then we have to have a roll call vote or, let's do the right process, guys. Okay.
If ready, I will entertain motions to approve of President Walter's appointees.
Senator Krager, motion to approve.
All right, it's been motioned by Senator Krager. Is there a second?
Senator Sherman, second.
All right, seconded by Senator Sherman. We now proceed with a roll call vote.
Senator Aslan? Senator Beck?
Aye.
Senator Brim?
Aye.
Senator Burnett?
Aye.
Senator Childerson?
Aye.
Senator Gorin?
Aye.
Senator Ho?
Aye.
Senator Jackson?
Aye.
Senator Jones?
Aye.
Senator Krager?
Aye. Aye.
Senator Morgan?
Aye.
Senator Obert?
Aye.
Senator Odell?
Aye.
Senator Perry?
Aye.
Senator Pruitt?
Aye.
Senator Randolph?
Aye.
Senator Sherman?
Aye.
Senator Shahan?
Aye.
Senator Shao?
Aye. Aye.
Senator Wheeler?
Aye.
Senator Winsing?
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. Congratulations. I'll now hand over to you, President Walters.
Okay, so could those exec officers unmute yourselves, raise your right hands, and then repeat after me, please? I, and then state your name.
I,
I, William
Maddie
Ashman,
McKenzie,
Solemnly promise to perform my duties and responsibilities
solemnly promise
promise to perform my
duties and responsibilities
to the best of my ability
To the best
to the best of my ability
while preserving the mission and values of the university.
while
while preserving the missions and values of the university.
I also vow to uphold
I also vow to uphold
the Constitution and bylaws of SIUE student government,
the
the
Constitution
Constitution and bylaws of SIU student government
while striving for the betterment
while striving for the betterment
of the university
of the
of the university
for all students, faculty, and staff.
for all students, faculty, and staff.
Congratulations, you guys.
All right, thank you. Congratulations to everyone who has been appointed. Moving on to line item 11, open forum. Usually if there's anybody in the audience that wants to add something, they can go ahead, but seeing there's nobody else here in the audience, we can move on to line item 12, announcements.
Vice President Ackman,
Yes, sir.
check with Kelly Jo Carnes to make sure that there isn't any comments from the live link, the live stream.
Yeah, I've been watching the live stream all night. We had one question that did come across the live stream, just asking when the senators and executive board members are going to have their goals and their initiatives up and available on the website. So it was more of just a question. I said that as they are all getting installed tonight and are working on that hopefully within the month that folks should have their goals and initiatives ready to go.
All right. Thank you. Now moving on to line item 12, announcements. If there's ready, I will entertain a motion to open the floor for announcements.
I have several that I will share with folks. So a couple of things. Hopefully now more than ever, folks are paying attention to your SIUE email. Every Monday, all students get an email called Places to Be at the E. This is where you will see lots of things happening, and particularly links to lots of virtual things, because we know that that's kind of the world we're living in right now. So I wanted to point out several things happening this week that you all might be interested in. Campus Activities Board has several virtual things, including tonight, actually just started, a comedy magic show that's virtually happening virtually. Tomorrow there is a Kahoot trivia night, and then on Thursday there is a Jackbox night. And so all of those links are available within that message about Places to Be at the E. There are some student diversity receptions that are happening this week. Today was the Latinx Hispanic welcome reception. We had a great turnout of faculty, students, and staff. Tomorrow is the LGBTQIA plus welcome reception. And then Wednesday is the Black student welcome reception, and Thursday is the Asian Pacific Islander welcome reception. So again, links to register for all of those are in the Places to Be at the E, as well as they all start at 4 o'clock. And it can be come and go. So we had some students that had to pop on today and then had to head to class. And so it's come and go as you see fit or interest. Leadership lunches. We are going to start with a virtual. It'll be over the lunch hour. So it's kind of a BYOL, bring your own lunch event. And so that will start on Wednesday, will be the first one. And then Emerging Leaders program for any of our younger, newer leaders. If you're in organizations with some young, new, up and coming leaders that may want to start honing their skills, the Emerging Leaders program may be a great start for them. The last thing I want to mention is this week, the Cougar Cupboard will open. And we will be taking basically reservations for students to come into the cupboard and pick up food. And so if you have a food insecurity, or you know of any student that has a food insecurity, again, through the Places to Be at the E, there is a link where you can sign up for a time. We can't take walk-ins, unfortunately, because we don't want a huge crowd of people hanging out and waiting, but you can go on and you can sign up for a time, and you can come in and get the food that you are interested in wanting to eat. We don't prepackage anything for you when you visit the cupboard. You get to pick and shop and do that all yourself. So great resource out there. So please make sure you're checking that out. Last thing I will say, I know fraternity recruitment is happening right now. So for anyone who is a member of fraternity, best of luck. And if you know of folks that might be interested, it's happening all this week. That's all I've got.
Senator Aslan, hopping onto Kelly Jo's train, along with the Emerging Leaders Program, Leadership Programs is also doing the Legacy Program, which I did shoot you all an email about. That's our Advanced Leaders Program. It does require an interview. Applications are on Get Involved. And then also with Emerging Leaders, the deadline for that one is September 11th is the application deadline, and the deadline for Legacy applications are September 9th. Both of those apps are on the Leadership Programs Get Involved page, and I can answer any questions about either of those.
All right, if there are no more announcements, I'll move on to line item 13, adjournment. If so, I now entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Senator Aslan, so moved.
All right, it's been moved by Senator Aslan. Is there a second?
Senator Brim, second.
Seconded by Senator Brim. I will now, moving on to line 13, adjournment, I now adjourn this meeting at 7:38 p.m.